I figured he was from the county. That's what I thought when the car pulled up, some hybrid thing humming like a refrigerator, and a man got out in a gray suit too clean for a Tuesday. He had a clipboard. People with clipboards in Coshocton County are almost always from the county. Mr. Whitcomb, he said, I'm conducting an energy survey. May I ask you a few questions on your porch? His name was Vel, or that's what he told me. And I didn't think twice about a name like that, because half the engineers who come through here now have names I can't spell. He sat across from me in the porch chair that used to be Carol's, and he set a small gray instrument on the rail between us. It looked like a multimeter, the kind I carried 30 years climbing poles for the co-op, except the needle behind the glass was longer than it needed to be, and the numbers on the dial didn't stop at any number I recognized. This will read ambient output while we talk, he said. Nothing invasive, just a baseline. I said fine. I had nothing else going on. Tuesday morning since Carol passed, I don't have much going on at all. He asked the kind of questions I figure a survey would ask. House built, when, insulation what year, do I run the furnace at night? I answered straight, the way I answer everything, and the needle on his little machine sat low and lazy, twitching maybe a hair past zero. He'd glance at it the way a man glances at a fuel gauge he already knows the answer to. Then he asked me to recall a moment. Said it like that, flat, like it was item 9 on a form. Recall a moment of high output for me, Mr. Whitcomb. Doesn't need to be recent. I asked him what he meant by output, and he said memory, association, feeling. The survey was interested in emotional density. He said like that was a normal thing to put on a county clipboard. I should have asked more questions right there. I didn't. Grief makes a man slow on the uptake some days, and that day I was slow. So I told him about Carol's coffee. 31 years, I made that coffee every morning before she was even out of bed, because she liked it black with exactly 2 sugars stirred in before the cream went on top. Never the other order. Cream first ruins it. She said, ruins the way the sugar dissolves. I told him about the chipped blue mug she liked, chip on the left side, so it sat against her bottom lip, just right when she drank from it, and how she always burned her tongue on the first sip anyway, every single morning for 31 years because she never had the patience to let it cool, and how I used to tell her she'd learn one day, and she never did, and I used to laugh about that. And now I make 2 cups every morning out of habit and pour the second one into the grass by the porch. Steps because I can't bring myself to stop making it, and I can't bring myself to drink it either. I wasn't trying to do anything to his machine. I was just answering the question he asked. The needle didn't drift this time. It swung. It went past the numbers I'd seen him glance at on other readings, past a red line printed near the top of the dial that I figured was some kind of limit, and it kept going until it hit the brass stop pin at the end of its arc, and then it bent. I heard the small click of metal giving, watched the needle bow sideways against the glass like a fishing rod under too much weight, and a thin crack ran diagonal across the face of the dial, right through the 0. Vel didn't move for a second, just looked at it. That instrument has a hard limit, he said, quiet, mostly to himself. It cannot register past that limit. There is no mechanism for it to register past that limit. Maybe it's broken, I said. It is broken now, he said. It was not broken when I set it down. He picked it up and turned it over in his hands, and something in the way he did it told me this wasn't his first machine, and it wasn't going to be his last, and he was used to numbers behaving the way numbers are supposed to behave. He had the look of a man checking a fuse he was certain hadn't blown, finding it blown anyway, and not having a next step written down anywhere. We cataloged this for the archive, he said. Every output we record, we file by category, by intensity, by duration. There's a category for grief. There's a category for longing. There's a category even for the specific output associated with habitual ritual after loss. We have seen that one many times on many worlds we've surveyed. Coffee made and discarded. It is common enough to have its own line in the registry. So I'm not special, I said. You are not supposed to be, he said. The category exists precisely because it is common. The reading should have been moderate. Sustained, perhaps, but moderate. He held up the cracked dial so I could see the bent needle pinned against the glass. This is not moderate. This is not in any category we have. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. I just sat there in my chair, and he sat there in Carol's, and the morning kept doing what mornings do. Light coming up warm through the screen door behind us, dust hanging in it the way it always does this time of day. May I ask what you were thinking of in that exact instant, he said. Not generally. The exact instant the needle moved. The chip on the mug, I told him. Left side, against her lip. He wrote nothing down. I think for the first time since he'd sat in that chair, he didn't know what line to write it on. Our species lost this, he said after a while. Long before I was assigned to this work. We traded it away, generations back, for something we believed was more useful. Clarity mostly, the absence of waste. We do not grieve. We catalog grief in others, and we use what we record to power systems that keep what's left of us alive, and it has always been enough because it has always fit the categories. He set the broken meter down on the porch rail between us, careful, like it might still go off. I do not think this will fit any category. I think I'm going to have to report that the instrument failed. Will that get you in trouble? Likely, he said. There's no line on the form, for the device could not survive the answer. He stood up to go, smoothed his gray suit the way a man does when he's stalling, and he looked at the rail one more time at the cracked little machine, and he left it there. Didn't pick it back up. I think he meant to, and then decided against it, the way you decide against carrying something heavier than you planned for. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wickham, he said, and got back in the hybrid car that hummed like a refrigerator and pulled out of the gravel drive and was gone. I sat on the porch a while after that, the broken meter on the rail where he'd left it, that bent needle catching the morning light at a wrong angle, throwing it back wrong, the way bent things do. Then I went inside and made 2 cups of coffee the way I do every morning. Black, 2 sugars stirred and first cream on top. I drank mine slow, the way I've learned to, finally, all these years too late to tell her so. And I carried the second one out to the porch steps and poured into the grass, same place I always do, and watched it darken the dirt and disappear the way it always does, the way I expect it always will. The broken meter stayed on the rail for 3 more days before I finally brought it inside. I keep it on the windowsill now, above the sink, where the light comes through clean most mornings. I don't know what reading it would give if you switched it on. I don't know that it would switch on at all, but I know what it would have to measure if it tried. The chip on the mug. The left side. 31 years of a woman burning her tongue because she never had the patience to wait, and a man who's learned, finally, exactly how long to wait, and has nobody left to wait for. I figure that's a fair price for breaking a machine that wasn't built to hold it.